I just bought this 4-in-1 bucket and I want to do some work to it before I use it. The first thing I want to work on is fixing this sag in the floor. As you can see, the bottom of the bucket there is bowed down just a little bit. That's a very common problem that I see on most used 4-in-1 buckets. I guess because the base isn't supported as well as on a regular bucket, so it tends to get bent. So what I am going to try to do to fix that is actually attach a beam underneath it and then use a hydraulic jack to push it back up. To do that, I'm going to use this piece of railroad track that I have lying around. So I've got a big hole here that I don't want. I'm going to cut that off and then cut it off near that little hole right there, and then burn a couple holes in it and cut a little bit off the web. Or is that the flange? This part here, whatever that is. And get it ready to attach to the underside of the bucket with some chains. I got this beam cut out so that I can attach a chain to each end. And then I came over here and welded a tab on each side of the bucket so that I can attach a chain to it. This cylinder was leaking before, and I did a really bad job kind of halfway repairing it. I thought it was working. Obviously, it is not. All right, I've got plan B in there, which is a bottle jack. I'm happy with how that worked. Got that pretty straight. It's not quite perfect, but it'll definitely work for me. That took a fair amount of force. I think this is a 6-ton bottle jack, and I maxed it out a couple times. I was testing this thing out and this cylinder sprung a huge leak. And that cylinder is right behind it. The guy I got this from did tell me it had been sitting for a long time, so I think these seals just dried out while it was sitting. No big deal, I got some seal kits, so I'm gonna go ahead and reseal these. Okay, got this thing all put back together and hooked up. It's working good, no leaks. I resealed that one off camera. That went fine as well. It's not leaking either. However, when I was working on these, I noticed that this pin boss on both sides is cracked out where it's welded to the rest of the bucket here. I don't want to just leave that because I'm worried it will get worse and might tear out of here and mess everything up. So I'm going to take this cylinder off and make some room and see if I can figure out a good way to fix that. You can kind of see how this thing is cracked all the way around, or nearly all the way around. So my plan is to take a die grinder and grind out the crack as best I can and weld it back up, and then weld in this little gusset I made, something kind of like that, to reinforce it so hopefully it won't crack again. Got that crack exposed pretty good all the way around there. So I just need to weld it up and weld my gusset on, and we should be good. I just used a cheap die grinder with a 1/4 inch carbide ball-nosed end mill chucked in it. That worked really well. Got that welded as good as I'm gonna get it welded. And then I ran a string in between the two pin bosses to give myself something to reference to line my gusset up with. So I'm gonna tack that on there, and then I'm actually gonna put the cylinder and bottom pin back in before I weld it solid, because I'm worried that it may pull the pin boss out of alignment, and then I wouldn't be able to get the pin in. As you can see, that gusset is right in the way of where the bottom hose needs to go. So that is definitely not going to work. I'm going to have to figure something else out. I'm glad I noticed that before I welded it solid. That would have been really stupid. I thought about it a little bit, and this is what I've decided to do. I'm going to weld this piece of 3/8 thick by 2 inch wide flat bar across the bottom, and then weld in a little piece of bar stock in between here to support it. I think that'll work okay. The other side has the exact same problem. So I gave it the exact same treatment, or almost the exact same. This pin I couldn't get out. It was rusted in there too bad. So I decided to just work around it in the cylinder, and that made everything quite a bit more difficult. Additionally, for some reason, I ground it out just like the other one, and then when I went to weld the crack up, it was just a total mess. It was super porous, and like I didn't have enough penetration in some spots, and I blew through it in some other spots. So I ended up grinding everything back out again and welding it a second time, and that worked okay, except for some spots on the backside that the cylinder was in the way of getting the welding torch in. I just could not get a good angle on it no matter what I did. So I tried welding it and grinding it and welding it again about 3 or 4 times, and I realized at some point I was just making it worse, so I quit while I was ahead, and that's what it's going to be. I also tried to reroute these hoses a little bit and take them out of that holder and this one because it was stretching them really tight when you were at full dump, which I didn't like. I'm not really wanting to cooperate. They've got these weird angled quick connects on them, which I guess is a Bobcat thing, but that's a minor detail. Somebody torched off a part of the quick attach mount area right here and here. I have no idea why they did that, and I was going to ignore it because I don't think it matters at all really, but I've already got the welder out and I'm already dirty and sweaty, so I might as well just fix this while I'm at it. I got those welded on, so I am going to stick a fork in this for now. I do need to put some grease fittings in it, but that is nothing. So I'm going to turn my attention to this bucket. I bought this a few years ago in this condition. As you can see, it is also bent, but in the opposite direction from what you would expect. I have no idea how that happened, but I'm assuming whatever bent the bucket also probably ripped this tooth off. Anyway, I'm going to try to bend it back with the same method, just kind of in reverse. I did a little more fine adjustment off camera, and this is the end result. I think I got it pretty straight. Also got this tooth shank welded on, and I beat the humps out of the bottom just with the sledgehammer there, so it's flat enough. I got the tooth, that just slips over the shank, like that. And then I got the keeper, which is 2 pieces of metal with a piece of rubber sandwiched in between them. It's marked with back on the back side. And that just goes in the hole. Like that. Well, that pretty much does it for this video. If you have a skid steer or anything else capable of operating a 4-in-1 bucket, I highly recommend one. They give you functionality far above and beyond a regular general purpose bucket. Obviously you can use them to pick up rocks and logs and other objects and carry them around, but you can also fill the bucket in reverse, which is super useful if you're trying to scrape material away from like a foundation or a wall or something like that. Also, if you're trying to move loose, light material like mulch or topsoil or something, you can clamp down on it and pick up big wads and move it much more efficiently than if you were just trying to scoop it up with a regular bucket. And if you're just moving a pile of material, instead of having to get out and shovel the last little bit into the bucket at the end, you can just clamp down on it and pick it up much easier. The only major disadvantage is they are quite a bit heavier than a regular bucket. It definitely is a noticeable difference in load capacity with a 4-in-1 bucket on versus just a regular bucket. So if you're just moving lots and lots of raw material, a general purpose bucket is the way to go there. But for pretty much anything else, a 4-in-1 really shines. I do also have this 4-in-1 bucket made by CID, I think, Construction Implements Depot, but I don't really like it because the way it's designed, it sits up too high on my machine, so you have to angle it down pretty steeply to get it to dig in, and then it causes like this washboard effect because it digs in too aggressively and then kind of pops back up, and it just makes it more difficult to get a nice even cut. It also has this cross member right here on the bottom that is open on both ends, and it fills up with dirt as you use it, and there's no easy way to clean it out, which I really don't like. Also, one neat thing about the Bobcat brand 4-in-1s is they have bolt-in cutting edges inside the bucket, and the only other brand that I know of that does that is Vernig. And Bobcat does sell these cutting edges if you ever actually manage to wear them out and need to replace them, which is cool. They also sell the front one, even though it's weld-in. But I feel as though I have rambled on about buckets more than enough, so I will just leave you with some footage of this thing in action, hopefully. Thanks for watching.